Truthfully, if we could see here, I'd be like, just today, I'm a little bit louder than normal. Yeah. Or that it automatically lowers us to the decibels. So we have like a limit in decibels that the program does not push us over.
I mean, there is one already in force. It's just you're maxing out at that point. That's where the snap, crackle, pop comes in. So if I were to go, it'll max out. So when you go back and listen to it, you won't get that sound. You'll miss the top and bottom ends of the range because I've hit that.
You fucked it for everyone.
Yeah. Anyway, do we have a podcast to do or something?
We do have a podcast. Welcome to CDR. I am Bryn. This is Matt. This is where we give our very unprofessional opinion about music we've been listening to. Before we start, we'll let you know this is our last review of the year, bar our end of year review. We both have kids and we're stumbling.
Time poor.
Shit.
all of the above.
It's true. We've got no excuse except for we've just not been on top of it. So this will be our last. We will try and reset and get as much of our videos out before the end of the year and start fresh.
Yeah, truth be told, the people who actually listen to the podcast won't notice anything. This will probably come out like second last week of December. Last week of December will be our wrap up, and it'll be almost like we meant it.
Well, there's the schedule, and we'll see if we stick to it now.
Fingers crossed.
Shit, there's still so many videos to do.
I know.
All right. This week we have been listening to the third album from the 30-year-old California. Spelling, that's with 3 L's. Don't get that part wrong because it's very easy. Even when you know you're supposed to type it in and you still do double L's.
Christia Cabral?
I wasn't even going to attempt it. Couldn't get her name.
CC.
Perfect. Oh, beautiful.
Yes.
Turning Wheel is the name of the album. I haven't really got much. It's spiritual, mystical.
It's experimental pop is probably the best way to put it, but it crosses some boundaries. And I know that the very first thing that you thought when you listened to the first track was almost like Disney pop, but hopefully we dispel that myth.
You said Disney to me. You got something that's very Disney for you.
Well, that track is, but we'll talk about that track when it comes to it. But
sure.
But in short, she's very experimental pop. I think that's the best way to phrase it.
Definitely, all the percussion has been done by her. She can't play an instrument, but she wrote all the music, which is unbelievably impressive.
Yeah, and she also was the one who had to organize and collaborate with literally all of the instrumentation, and there is a lot of instrumentation on this album.
Oh my God, you can hear that in just Boys at School, how dramatic it just gets.
Well, literally every track is cram-packed full of either strings or horns or like
Congo drums.
And then like layered synths and basically every sort of traditional orchestral instrument finds a place somewhere on the album.
Yeah, flute made it in there at one stage.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing on there that'll surprise you if you go in with that particular knowledge. But so she's had to organize all of it, and it sounds like an impossible task given just how much care and attention has been given to the music across the core of the album. So
yeah, everything is also quite crisp. Easily hear and understand it. There's a few little samples in there that might catch you off guard. A whale, a rocket ship.
Right.
Yeah. Woo! Crazy. Let's start out. Little Deer. This is the Disney one you were telling me about. First, it starts off dramatic. Like, just... I'm going to say that for the whole album, dramatic. Everything's dramatic.
It has, it's like, to me, this song is the most Disney sounding to my ear because it has that little bit of a build up, and then it's those chimes, those chimes that lead into the little dear. It just feels so very Disney to me until you realize, obviously, that the song is about an arrow killing a deer, and almost like as if the arrow is apologetic throughout the entirety of it.
Bambi's mum
dead.
Yep, she did.
Big dead.
Return to the ground.
Yeah. Return to the ground. Return to the dirt.
I mean, yeah, the harmonies are a little eerie, I found, but like her vocals are breathy. Horns, my God, Congo drums.
Yeah.
Like hand drums. I don't know if I remember hearing any on any others. Yeah, the wind chimes. It's very smooth, and the trumpet at the end. Like, this is, yeah, sure, very Disney. It's got everything in it, but yeah, lyrics are.
It's a bright song, but the reason I actually don't mind it is because of the dark lyrics. But something odd about an apologetic arrow to my ear is actually what brings me back.
See, I couldn't figure out who she was. So yeah, now that you say it's an apologetic arrow, I'm like, oh, that kind of makes more sense.
Yeah. Now turn us back into the dirt. I'll marry me, and then like the start of the second verse, the arrow's like, I'm inside ya.
Yes,
I'm in ya.
No pain, no name to put above your holy grave. I was like, oh wow, these are
you're dead.
Yeah, it's awesome poetry.
So yeah, for me, the music's probably just a little bit too cheery, but thank goodness for the song content, hey? The lyrics.
Now, Always is the next one, and this is about 50 seconds in. You get the ooh and Tranquil Waterfall.
I like the little heartbeat bass in like the first verse.
Yeah.
The dun 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 dun. Yeah.
Yes.
And then her vocals are really sort of like, they're like a little bit falsetto, a little bit harsh, that holy.
If you can't see this, Matt's almost fingering his nipples.
Well, I mean, you've just confused all the people just listening on podcasts, but that's entirely fine. She's super flowery on this song. She's got an interesting shape to her vocal runs, and I mentioned this before. I mentioned this to you before the podcast. You don't know who Coheed and Cambria is, but a couple of the vocal runs, just to my ears, sound exactly like how they would do it if they were to write this particular track. So I was immediately enjoying that, because it felt like I had Girl Coheed and Cambria pop version playing this track, and so I naturally enjoyed it.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah?
I mean, the only thing I have with this song is like, I always kind of gives me the anticipation like something is building to be like a little grand at the end, and it just never happens. I mean, the only thing that probably does is like the trumpets drop off and then the strings build in. I'm like, oh, so there is nothing. It just kind of sits.
But given the rest of the album, especially the back end of the album, the fact that this track doesn't have some progressive flair is probably not a bad thing, because there are a ton of songs as the album goes on where they basically... It's almost like she's borrowed every trope from prog rock, or I guess she'd be prog pop, which is a weird thing to try and say fast.
Prog pop.
This track, I'm glad it plays it straight. And I really like that "Why can't I turn away, I'm under your persuasion" line. It's sung so sweetly, but clearly gives the track a bit of context. I really like this track. It's a good track.
Yeah. Vocal builds up. Turning Wheels. Oh man, this is like what, the piano and the choir course, but like for some reason I just feel so much of Sia.
See, I don't get the Sia vibes, but I mean, her vocal range is on full show. She goes from falsetto to deep bass. I mean, as far as she can go in terms of deep bass. For me, title track, best track. This track would be fighting with others on the album for best track, but I think it's my favorite off the album.
Really?
I really enjoyed the Beatlesy chord progression, and like, it's a very sympathetic piano. I like the chorusy choir that accompanies her. I really like that little falsetto flavor that she gives at the start of the track. This track is great. I love the vibe. It's everything that I was hoping for when I was listening to this album.
Yeah, and this being the self-titled, the title track. Why would you think this one in particular would have been chosen
to be my favorite, or to
be the album title?
I get the impression that this album's themes are centered around a turning wheel, which can have a lot of metaphorical connotations, like the progression of time, the changing course over the course of your life. And I think a lot of that then plays on the introspection you see at different points throughout the album. And it's very much in Cabral's life influence that you get across the album. Skipping forward to a song like Queen of Wands, which is a tarot card playing on her deep interest in that particular subject. I get a very introspective feeling from a title called Turning Wheel. That's what I get. It's meant to be introspective, with time being the overlay. So, as time progresses, different things happen. And I don't think I'm capturing it perfectly, but I feel like that's kind of the gist of what that metaphor might mean.
Sweet. There we go. Now, Future.
Speaking of time,
Future is, definitely part of the wheel. And this is where I kind of enjoy where I would want to start the album. The first three, I'm like, I'll tolerate. But for some reason, Future just gets me from the start.
I live in the future. Yeah, I must admit, there is... this song probably isn't one of my favorites, but it probably has one of my favorite song blocks in the album, and it's basically after that chorus, that part where it's like... it's just so bouncy and light-hearted and totally great.
I get a real spacey feel for it. I guess, the 0G gravity.
You feel light-chested. It's like there's nothing wrong at the moment when you hear that
and she
song.
does so well, just throwing her voice and then almost throwing it off into the cosmos. In the future, the far. Can't do it.
I really quite like... I'd like for you to attempt again. I really like the wandering bass at the start of the track that adds in an extra note. So just every now and then, there's a fifth beat to the bar. I'll play the song afterwards, but it's almost like she shifts from 5/4 to 4/4 on alternating bars. So, I guess technically that makes it a 9/8 with the bass in it. That might be wrong. Drummers come at me. But what I would say is it feels like there's an extra note in the bass line, and it's such an interesting little bit that I sort of grab onto as well. And then once it's done and the chorus is done, I get that breathy part. So this isn't one of my favorite tracks, but there's still so much to like about it.
Yeah, there is. It is awesome. I'm gonna have to learn timing.
It doesn't really matter. Generally speaking, if you can't shuffle awkwardly in time with the music, it's probably because the music's not shuffling awkwardly in time with you.
Okay. Awaken is probably one of my favorite ones. I love it. The acoustic guitar, it was really just picked up my ears.
The intro,
yeah, the harmonies were interesting, and it's almost like the offset effect that she had with her original, probably the singer, and then she has her own backing as well. But there's just it's matching, but not matching.
Yeah, it's not even like it's dissonant. So there are two vocal lines, and it's almost like they're sort of phasing in and out of each other as they sing it. It gives a really interesting effect.
Yeah.
Over the fact that she's singing lyrics like, Holy Father, please awaken your love. It's heavy stuff. And we're high in a tower called America, but all we want is right here, all we need and more. The lyrics are so incredibly powerful in this song. Probably one of the better lyrical songs than we've probably come across, mixed with the fact that the acoustic is so foreboding, but it's not like it's evil. It's just there's something brewing away here, and just her vocals are so emotion laden, and this is vying for one of my favorite tracks.
This is definitely vying for one of my favorites. Even the chugging cellos are I don't know if it was a cello or drums or whatever it is, but it's awesome. The strings, and right at the end, I was like, what is this chaotic going on? I was like, is there a bomb? Is this why it's an awakening? Someone's just dropped a bomb? But nah, it's if you hear just a little bit before, there's a countdown and a rocket ship taking off, and I'm like, oh god damn! It's it really is coming into some sort of awakening. It's I wonder if Future, Future, Awakening, and then Emperor with an egg sort of line up to each other, and it's a far stretch, but with I Live in the Future, and then they're going into outer space, maybe with Awakening and leaving all behind. What is the Earth like when everyone leaves? Now you flop over to what it may look like on Earth, and it really is just an emperor with a king. And for a long time, it took me to figure out that this was a penguin. An emperor penguin.
For Emperor with an Egg.
Yeah, it was just unbelievable. I can't believe it. When it hit me, I realized, like, I love this song. Like, everything about this song just, like, plays in perfectly. I can't think of anything that would be shouldn't be there. It's the only song where it doesn't revolve around, I don't know, maybe a little bit of tragedy or even a little bit of optimism. It's just an emperor trying to save its egg. Like, the ice has teeth, the wind has teeth.
The thing I like about, like, music generally is that only in music can you have a title of a song called Emperor with an Egg, and you can still be confused about whether the song is about an emperor with an egg.
Yes. Well, because it gets into that part where it's like, he's a bird, he's a king, he can swim like an arrow. And I'm like, oh my God, is this related to Little Deer and the arrow? Like, is it? Trying to rack my brain. And that's why I was just stuck on that thought for so long. And then I was just like, oh, wait. No.
The title.
No. It's about a bloody penguin.
Yeah.
Well, now it all makes sense. Like, he's got an egg in his feathers. He's got an egg with his treasures and his poetry. And it was like, oh my God.
This song is probably one of the most dynamic on the album. There are so many phase shifts. There's lots of different sections to it. There are sweeping orchestral parts after we've learnt that, you know, he's a bird, he's a king. And even that part is like, it's rumbling. It has a different energy.
It races a little bit.
Yeah. And the intro is a bit more introspective. And then at the very end, you have that dark, you know, leopard seal. You know, I can feel a leopard seal, just vocals that just leave the track a bit haunting. Awesome track. This is probably, if it's not it'd be in the top 3 for me.
It's definitely in my top 3. I mean, the start where it comes out, it's like triumphant and a little bit sad. And then towards the end where it's like, he can swim like this.
Yeah.
It's like Tron Legacy felt a little bit after that. And like, oh, this is epic. And yeah, Matt was right. The way it leaves you just guessing. I was like, is this baby who's in the egg going to be left without a parent?
And then for me, like when you go to Boys at School, the intro to the track, the piano feels like it really should be the end of Emperor with an Egg. So when I'm listening to it, not on random, that piano piece, it goes for about a minute, fits perfectly to the end of that song. So much that I actually think it is intended to be the end of Emperor with an Egg. It fits so well. And then when the song obviously shifts into what I would consider the start of Boys at School, that's when there's like that definitive break. What was your opinion on Boys at School?
So this is the part of the album where it's halfway through and it sort of flips to a dark side. So everything after this is dark.
Yes,
it
absolutely.
really does. And this, and I guess that kind of does fit very well with the end of the Emperor of the King. Emperor with an Egg. And as you rolling into it and she's singing, I kind of got this feeling as we're being drawn into a memory, and not a fairly good one, going back to her school days and being stuck and almost teased, and just this little bit of regret and spite that comes from it. But the drums that come into it, the piano that plays, and then the guitar that builds up into it, it's like, I think this is the first where it kind of just blew me. I go, oh my God, this album's a bit different than I thought it was going to be. This, fading vocals. I hate the boys. And witchy. Oh, this is where it really does get a bit, not this one, but I will bring it up in a couple of them. But this is where like it really does start to take that mystical, spiritual sort of side, almost like of the dark arts.
For me, Boys at School was probably the first miss on the album. I actually really quite liked all of the first 6 tracks, quite a lot, to be honest. Boys at School, I'll listen through it if I'm going through the album, but I'll be skipping it from now on. You're right, a bit of dark synth pop about prior memories, but for me, it didn't really resonate too much. Not a track for me.
That's also a long track too, 7.5 minutes. I don't know if this is actually true, but this may be the only song she didn't write.
Boys at School?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. For some reason, there was 3 other people's names next to the
Credits.
lyrics. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I have no idea. Legacy. Well, that's a bit of a journey of life, I reckon. Being born into it, you're automatically born into someone else's legacy. If you have to pick it up and run with it, if you do or do not. I mean, it starts out a bit soft, disoriented. The vocals, like, grow and grow, and there's just little starts to warp and fading.
I get more Code and Cambria vibes with her vocals on this particular track. I really quite like the way that the track swells as it progresses, almost as if the character is bringing herself into the daylight, to take the lyrics from the track. It is a bit sparse on the lyrics, so it does play more with the repetition of the lyric play and then the song structure. Did you like the track? Yeah, middle of the road for me,
it's
to be
very
perfectly
much in the
honest.
middle. I mean, the coolest part was, like, I felt like there was a bit of a portal at some stage in the album. I'm sorry, in the song, and a little bit of electronic.
Yeah, for me, like, some of the electronic flavors probably weren't. They felt like odd choices to me. There's like an odd synth texture towards the end that I just can't really stand, to be honest.
Yeah,
which is a shame because there are parts of the song that I like, but yeah, again, probably a bit of a miss for me.
I thought it was a bit of a miss. Do you remember who Gruntilda is?
Yeah, Gruntilda is Banjo and Kazooie's nemesis.
It is.
Yeah.
And this is where I start to really fall into, like, a video game mind.
I love video games, so go for it. Fall further.
Well, with Queen of Wands, I feel like this is where you come out and with Legacy, it felt like you were entering the tower and you're about to take on the challenge.
The boss.
The boss. And then Queen of Wands is like where you come out and you're running along that extremely long hallway, or you're running around the outside of the castle along the wall, and it's just like this. You're heading towards the boss, and you're just almost reflecting. And it's like sort of a waltz in it as well that I felt.
I mean, at the start, it's expressive. It feels like there's some energy, there's some transition happening, and then when the track lays in thick, it's that oppressive,
dooming
synth bass. Yeah. That very doom feel. It also swells in that manner throughout the track as the foreboding becomes greater. And if you want to take the Gruntilda analogy, I guess that's when she's flying overhead, right?
Yeah.
This song is super interesting in the way that it progresses, because it swells. It is a slow song in the way that it builds and then fades. The way it fades, the track literally deconstructs itself. They take out beats, they take out different drums, different notes here and there, until you're basically just left with nothing as the track ends. This song is probably a bit too ponderous for me.
Ponderous.
As in, like, it probably just takes a bit too long to go through those different progressive phases.
Okay.
But I like the idea as such, and I do actually enjoy listening to this track.
Yeah, this one's up there.
Yeah, for the back half of the album, this is probably one of my more enjoyed tracks, I would say. The funny thing is the first time I listened to it, I was just like, man, this song just won't hurry the fuck up. Like, just get on with it. I've just listened to like 2 or 3 ponderous songs that just keep going, like, Boys at School. And like Legacy was a bit, but for whatever reason, on repeated listens, Queen of Wands
picked up. Yeah. I felt that too.
Yeah.
So with those 3 before, and then you come into Magic Act, this is where I kind of picked up a little bit.
You like Magic Act?
I think it's mainly because of the guitar.
The lead?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really it kind of brought me back to wherever I was in my mind, somewhere else.
Yeah, sure. I really like the underlying riff that the guitar takes for Magic Act towards the end. I think some of the lead breaks aren't particularly interesting. They're not overly technical. They sort of just they play a part. I would have loved if there was just something a little bit more face melty about the lead in that particular song. But I really like the underlying riff. What about like the rest of the song? Surely,
well, like give it a strong. Well, the banjo is like a little bit swampy. I feel like I'm trekking through swamp land when I'm listening to this, and the pianos are just what's with this ghostly backing that I just get through the back of the feel of it. I don't understand.
Well, this one had the vocals were interesting on this one again. Not the same sort of phase in, phase out as Awaken, but they had, I think, maybe a guest vocalist. It didn't sound like her to my ear.
That's why I was wondering if there was like some sort of effect.
I think it was just like another vocalist on this one. I feel like it might be wrong. She might be singing both parts. But I feel like it gives that ethereal energy to that repeating line, you know, take my body, might make my brain a garden.
Yeah.
It gives it that otherworldly feel to it.
And go on.
I got the impression that this song is basically about dying after a very long, potentially fulfilling life. You had a different take.
I had thought that it was when you come into contact with something that intrigues you and you want to learn more about it. It's almost like restarting that inspiration to let your brain germinate and learn once again, trying to build upon it. That's why I think it's a bit of a magic act.
So maybe a better analogy is it's a metamorphosis. It is changing from one state to another in some way that is beneficial. Because I get the impression I get is, you know, make my brain a garden. If this is a character dying, it's like they're okay with it. And if they are growing into something bigger and better, a garden always gives me the impression of something better and more sustainable. That's the energy that those lyrics impart. So maybe a metamorphosis is a better way to
possibly
analogize it, if that's a word.
But yeah, I feel this is like then it goes into revolution. So I'm wondering if they two do kind of, I don't know, mixing a little bit. Sometimes I get these feelings like trying to find links between songs if there is or is not, but yet there's always this grey area of if it is or not.
Yeah, I must admit, I don't. If there is a link between all of the songs, I don't think it's anywhere near as pronounced as other albums we've listened to. This song felt really cut and dry to my ear. It really just feels like she's in a permanent revolution, as almost like she's always fighting. There's always some fight to have to either improve on your own end or on someone else's end. That's the feeling that I get from it. I like how bright it is at the start, and I really, really love like that 70s horns section.
Yeah.
As the track gets to the halfway point, it's so infectious. And then it just dissolves into like discordance and rioting and protest. This is a great song.
I think you absolutely nailed it, because what I've written down is like the angelic harmonies, and then it speeds up once it gets to that second half of the song, you know. And then you get the gale of winds. I get like a Wizard of Oz sort of Dorothy being taken away by the tornado, and then it lands with tins and a piano, and they're all over the place. It's chaotic.
But then there's like literal rioting sounds in the back of that track. Like bits of the instrumentation stop at different points, as it's no longer this upbeat, campy track. It becomes just genuine rioting by the end of it, and you're not really sure at what point along the way it became rioting. You know, that the
what part fell apart. Yeah.
When did it fall apart? This track probably it'd be competing with Queen of Wands for my favorite on this half of the album.
Wow, struck more of a chord for you than me,
I guess.
Sweet Talk is the last song of the album, and this is just kind of a reflection on music. I mean,
that's what I would take away from it. But
low polishing harps play with a little bit like the vocal range. She's really into Grutilda. I felt again. Gruntilda is in there again. Like, there's a frog.
I'm pretty sure there is an article that talks about how she used to play Banjo-Kazooie as a as a nascent teen. So
Really?
no,
Damn.
there's no chance on planet Earth that would be the case. I mean, it would be cool if it was. That would be sick.
That would be sick.
Yeah.
But like you can through the whole album, you get this. You know, she's into magic and the spiritual world.
She's into self-expression, definitely. There's no doubt about that. This song feels very introspective as well, almost like she's exploring her own thought space about music itself. There's a random theremin at the end, towards the back end of the track.
Hey, what? Sorry.
Theremin. You know the Doctor Who intro?
Yeah.
That's the theremin. It's basically like this. You have this like electronic thing here, and you put your hand or some wand in it, and it picks out where it is and gives you like that warbled sound. It's very particular, and it's called a theremin.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm certain it must have been a theremin. It just, to my ear, it sounded like a theremin. But again, this track, her vocals are really sweet and very talky. That's the track name. They're very good. This track probably doesn't interest me that much.
Nah, not really at all. That's the end.
It is.
It is the end. It's the end of our albums this year.
Now, just before we move on from this album, this album is not like anything you would have listened to previously, right?
Ever.
And to be fair, it really isn't in my circle of albums that I listen to. So, has your opinion on this type of music shifted? Because this would have been, how would it have shifted on the back of this?
I think this is a great introduction to look into this sort of music. I wouldn't even know how to put it. It's
well, what was your impression the first time you listened to this album in full?
First time I listened to it in full was like, good question. That's 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, but you can still get the like the sense of how it went. Like for me, I felt like every time I listened to it, it got better.
Yes.
Like the first time I listened to it, it felt long. And then the fourth time I listened to it, it didn't, for some reason. It's like, for whatever reason, I had synced my brain with the thought wave of the album, if you will, and I was in sync with it, and suddenly the album was great. Like, it took me 4 listens to appreciate certain tracks, and then once I had clued in, I was there. Tracks like Turning Wheel meant that I kept my interest on the first listen, because I really liked that track basically out of the gate. But then, yeah, for whatever reason, the more I listened to it, the more I fell in lockstep with it.
Yeah, it does grow on you as you go along. The first time I listened to it, I didn't know what I was in for. I'm just glad there was so much happening. There's such a big difference between the first half and the second half. And I was always looking forward to Future and Emperor and Awaken. Well, just those 3 were enough to keep me in this album. But as time went by and I'm listening to this mystical sound in the second half that's just so dark, I'm like, I'm missing things. I'm missing so much that I don't understand about this album. This album literally just showed me of how little I know. It has
an underlying complexity. There's no doubt about that. This album, is surprisingly complex, well layered, and like you said, completely and utterly interesting. Every track, even if I don't like a track, there's something on every single track that my ear pricks up on goes, oh yeah, that's really quite cool. I quite
even
like
if
that.
it's for like a small 10 seconds and it's gone, like what happened?
Yeah, yeah.
It does leave you in this spell cast days of like, I don't know what's going on, but for some reason I'm fine with listening to this.
Yeah,
and cool. I'm quite happy to listen to this, and hopefully in 10 years, if we're still doing this, and I've got a lot more knowledge and I understand and know what I'm doing, I might go back and realize like how amazing this album is. Consider people have given it a 10.
Yeah, we'll do the 10-year retrospective.
Oh my god.
Well, we started on a good year. In terms of number keeping, 2020. So
we got a decade.
2030 rolls around. That's perfect. It's nice and neat.
Yay! 2030 agenda. We'll see you there.
Yeah. Hopefully we've edited all the videos up until then. Hopefully this video is out by 2030. Okay, so you won't give it a score, I'm guessing.
No, but I do strongly suggest giving it at least one crack. Open-minded percussion is... Just got to remember, it's like she did this all herself. She wrote all of the
music. I don't even think you need to preface it with that. I think the music actually stands up to
itself?
To plenty of scrutiny.
Yeah.
There's something in there for everyone. And like I come from a punk rock background, and there was plenty on this album that I really quite liked. Yeah, really awesome. Care to guess my score?
9?
You see...
Are you personal preferences as well?
It involved? Is always personal preferences.
Probably a 7.
So I'd give it a 7.5. So like that's in terms of all albums I've listened to and almost how likely I am to play it again. I will listen to this album again. There's no doubt about that. I think this is a really, really good album. There's enough in there to like. There are tracks that I don't like that take a little bit too long, which kind of knocks the score back. But yeah, I'm totally in awe of what's been achieved here. It's a really good album.
Yeah. Yeah, go check it out.
And now we don't have an album to say or to listen to now. We have to listen to all of the albums.
Ooh, that's another conversation we'll need. Are we going to include...
Okay, so because Bryn and I are short on time, we're going to change the format a little bit next year. Just as a preface, we're going to be... listening to 4 albums concurrently, and then we're going to have one block day when we get all of the damn podcasts out. It should mean we have a better, more mature opinion on the album because we'll have had a little bit longer to listen to it. But it'll also be far easier for us to time manage, given the fact that young children take so much of your time.
More like you want to spend more time with them.
Oh, yeah, okay. So I'm the bad dad. I get that. That's a cheap shot if ever I've seen it, Bryn.
I didn't even know you felt that way, Matt. You just told everyone.
Oh, fuck you. Anyway, so so next week's the end of year retrospective, and then
we'll try a new schedule, see how we go, but we're still up in the air of mixing it. But my question I was trying to get to is, are we going to include all of the King Gizzards?
Ooh, that's a good question. So the way I've always done the retrospective has been, all one time that I've done it, has been to only include one song or one album per band. So yeah, absolutely. Whole of King Giz is on the market, but I would say just choose one song.
Okay, cool. All right, peeps, we're CDR. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Yay.
You want to set up for the sea, turning wheel, but I want to stay up on the hill. Dancing. Oh, that was pretty good.
That was pretty good.
Fuck, that better make it into the podcast.
That's going to be our outro.
With them. I fucked it. We interrupt this podcast for Bryn to make sure his car's not being stolen.